Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of Why Humans Avoid War, taken from Reddit. If you're new to this series, there is a playlist listed in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Kylon Point of View. Clinical death. A human phrase that refers to the absence of respiration and a heartbeat. What any normal species would simply call death. The human doctor in the flagship's medical wing told me I had no vital functions for a little over 2 minutes. This claim seemed impossible, given that I was very much alive. When I pressed him for how that was possible, he basically said they beat my corpse back to life. Though he dressed up the concept with scientific jargon. Chest compressions, I believe was the term. If that was the Terran idea of a joke, that wasn't very funny. That wound should have been mortal by all known medical standards. Waking up in a surreal, all-white room, strung out on whatever drug cocktails there were in those IVs, my first thought had been that I was dead. I still wasn't fully convinced there wasn't the afterlife or some trick of the dying mind. What are you thinking about? It was Commander Rykov, seated at the bar stool next to me, dressed in civilian clothes. The flagship had stopped on Luna for maintenance following our little adventure, and I had obliged his offer to hit the local pub. "You gonna stare a hole through the counter there?" I tried to snap out of my thoughts, sighing, "I'm thinking I need a drink." He chuckled, beckoning the bartender. "That's the spirit, 2 shots of vodka." The barkeep nodded, and she shuffled off to fill his request. I could feel the few stares directed at me, and I realized, with a bit of discomfort, that I was the only non-human in the establishment. I glanced up at the television screens on the wall, trying to distract myself. The sound was muted, but I could see the closed captioning ticking across the picture. "For Speaker Ula's resignation intensify, after internal memos disparaging various Federation representatives were leaked to the press. The source of this information is unclear, but she has, of course, accused the Terran Union." "What exactly did she say?" I asked, pointing at the screen. "Well, for one, she called the Azrekahl ambassador a gutless, wootless, and possibly brainless, and then proceeded to say that she would hardly consider his species sentient. You can see how that might be offensive." "Might be. I'd say her days as speaker are numbered." I gave the commander a pointed look, crossing my arms. "I'm glad your brother's friend exposed her." Rykov stiffened, alarm flashing in his eyes. I don't know what you—" "I'll stop you right there. Yes, you do," I growled. "Do you think I'm stupid? We all thought that the Hod-Al were just paranoid. But they were right when they said your diplomats were spies, weren't they?" "Between us, yes, but it's best not to talk about this. The agency doesn't have rules, and it has ears everywhere." The human had lowered his voice to just above a whisper. I had never seen him look this uncomfortable, which unnerved me as well. "We need to talk anyways. Pavel, wants me to ask you to keep quiet about how Kazel died. I told him that we could trust you." There was an implicit question in his words, asking whether that trust was justified. His tone was almost pleading, and his eyebrows were scrunched up with concern. I suspected that the worry was for my welfare rather than his own. If these spies would waltz into the middle of a standoff and murder a planetary ambassador in cold blood, I had no doubt that they would ensure my silence, one way or another. "You can, my lips are sealed," I said. "Next time, just give me that straight, though. I don't appreciate this State Department bullshit." "I know, General, and I'm sorry. I had to maintain his cover. But I never should have dragged you into the embassy mess to begin with." "Wouldn't have missed it for the world. I wish I could have seen the look on their faces when the flagship showed up." The bartender returned, placing 2 tiny glasses of clear liquid in front of us. I squinted, inspecting the drink with a suspicious eye. This was a rather small serving for an alcoholic beverage, but perhaps humans were more susceptible to the alcohol's effects. After taking a single whiff of the drink, however, I recoiled in shock. It seemed that quite the opposite was true. "Is this diluted at all? It smells like pure alcohol." You said you needed a drink. I figured you needed the good stuff, not just a beer. The commander downed the entire glass at a single gulp, and then grinned at me. Your turn. I hesitated, but swallowed the drink as the human did. The strength of the brew left me coughing, my eyes streaming from its intensity. I clutched at my throat as I felt the vodka burning a trail down my gullet. The only thing that kept me from pitching out of my chair was Commander Rykov, who seemed unimpaired as he caught me. "What is wrong with you people?" I spluttered. It seemed that my struggle had caught the attention of the bar's occupants, and many of them were having a laugh at my expense. Seeing the good-natured mirth in the commander's eyes, I couldn't help but crack a smile. I shook my head, trying to clear the fuzzy feeling from my mind. "I'm pretty sure that would be considered a poison in the Federation." Rykov shrugged. "The Federation is boring. One more. I'm good. Your loss." I pried the human's arms off of me, trying to rise to my feet. The lightheadedness wasn't exactly pleasant, so walking it all seemed like a good idea. I only staggered a few steps before lurching to the floor. Reaching for the counter was to no avail. All I achieved was cutting my hand against its edge. I winced at the stinging sensation and studied my palm. Pure shock rocketed through my veins as I saw the wound shrinking before my eyes, closing itself off as though by magic. The pain dulled into a gentle tingling, with the injury site feeling uncomfortably warm. That was not normal. Maybe it was the vodka? No, that wasn't how alcohol worked. If only I could think straight right now. I stared at Commander Rykov, hoping he had some explanation. There was no way I would have believed such a thing if I hadn't seen it with my own 3 eyes. A chill shot down my spine as I realized the human looked more alarmed than surprised. What exactly had they done to save my life? Something told me that I hadn't been given the whole truth. Again. "What did you do?" I spat. "Look, it was my fault that you got shot. I had to fix it. I had to," he muttered. My anger was already giving way to confusion. "I'm sorry, what? I don't blame you. I knew what I was getting into. Now I ask again, what did you do?" We injected you with an experimental nanotechnology." I took a few ragged breaths, trying to process the information. Humans weaponizing nanites, and then turning around and used them for medical purposes. The whole thing sounded both illegal and dangerous. But since I would have been dead without the intervention, did I really have the right to complain? It didn't seem to have done any harm. In fact, a sample of my blood could be quite useful to the Jutari Confederacy. I suspected if the 2 remaining military species wanted to remain relevant, we needed to play catch-up to Terran technology. Or else, the Federation might turn to Earth as its sole protector. Reverse engineering would speed up the process by decades. Right now, the Terran Union was a friend, and I hoped that it would stay that way. But times and governments change, and being at the mercy of humanity's mood swings didn't seem like the best foreign policy decision. It was likely the Confederacy would try to step in as Earth's new trading partner, and after witnessing the implosion of the Zanuck Republic, I knew that we needed to take a more cautious approach, not get too entangled or dependent. "General, please talk to me." The commander's voice was pleading, almost desperate. "I'll tell you whatever you want to know." I dusted myself off, rising on unsteady legs. "I want to know what your thing is with nanites." He laughed, clapping me on the back. "You're a piece of work." I smiled, but my mind was elsewhere. Perhaps it would be mutually beneficial if we brokered some sort of under-the-table deal. We could advance the humans' research, offer them a generous amount of credits, in exchange for arms and technology. Now that I realized how fond the Terrans were of subtlety, I figured that I just needed to get my government to join them in the shadows. I decided to broach the subject with the commander later, when I was sober, and we were in somewhere less public. With any luck, our friendship would lead to a long-lasting partnership between our species, as equals. End of chapter. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 patrons and channel members. Ithilia, Barky, Fudic Yol, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, White Band 420, Lord Azrekahl, Arcadian, and Oakfield.